welcome. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur.
I'm Sylvia Earle. I'm an oceanographer, explorer with National Geographic, founder of Mission Blue, and an ocean elder. Thank you, ocean elders, for sponsoring this program.
And this is our show, Dive In, where we host informal and open conversations with the ocean community on topics of wonder and interest. You can ask questions as we move through the conversation by putting them in the Q&A box, and we'll get through as many as we can towards the end of the program. And please note, we'll add some links along the way as well. And before we get underway today, let's remind everyone that the world
is blue. Oh, and today is
International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Hi.
Shiver me timbers.
See, that's much more authentic. And we are welcoming back our longtime dear friend, Don Wright, Deep Sea Don, chief scientist at Esri. And since we last met, she became the deepest diving Black person going to the Challenger Deep and using a submersible. And she's just released a new book called Mapping the Ocean.
The deep.
Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you very much, and very proud to work for Esri, where we make ArcGIS.
Arc.
Okay, that's enough pirate talk.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Fire the cockapoo.
The parrot.
We did our requirement here.
Yes. Well, it's so great to have you back.
Oh, it's wonderful to be back with both of you. I've missed both of you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
So let's just dive right in on it. And I know, like so much of your field work is taking you into these super, high terrain, geologically active regions of the world. Like the East Pacific Rise and the Mid-Atlantic Trench and the Ridge and the Juan de Fuca.
You'd think it wouldn't be so hard.
Hard?
You can hard.
Such stop.
No, if we can map the moon and Mars and Jupiter, why is it so hard, Dawn?
Yes, well, we need to now, for your audience, full disclosure, I am a marine geologist.
Yes.
I was trained as oceanographers are trained throughout the world. We know our biology and our chemistry and our physics and geology. So many of us are getting into policy now, marine policy, but in terms of specialty, I'm a geologist. I was trained as a geologist, and my specialty is mapping the seafloor. And the joke among our sub-community is we need to drain the water off. And that's the best way to map. That would make it much easier to map the seafloor.
Right.
Of course, we know that all parts of the ocean are absolutely critical, including the water column, but it is the water that makes it so challenging. And so we have to copy or use the sonar, the sound waves that our marine mammal brethren use, and that takes time. It's slower than using a satellite, although we do have the entire ocean floor mapped via satellite, but it's a special sensor called a gravimeter. Satellite altimetry is the sensor that is able to measure the differences in the surface of the water, the surface of the ocean, and then estimate from that the largest features on the seafloor, such as the large trenches or the large ridges or the large plateaus. And it does this by being able to devise the Earth's mass deficit or mass excess in terms of the Earth's gravitational field. It's really a remarkable technique.
Yeah.
But it in terms of the ocean floor topography that we need for the ocean that we want, in terms of fisheries and marine protected area design and planning, and even for the laying of submarine cables that makes your podcast, your webinar possible to go global, we have to have a much more detailed map of the seafloor. The satellite altimetry map from the gravimetry is like looking at something out of focus, I would say. It's like not having your prescription eyeglasses on.
I
And
think
so we have to go to sea.
Bob Ballard described the situation roughly as if you have the Thanksgiving banquet covered by a big cloth, and you can see the humps and bumps
Yes,
broadly, but you don't know whether it's the turkey or the cranberry sauce.
exactly. Yeah.
You get this overview, which is about as good as it has been until fairly recently.
Yeah.
That the fine details have been very patchy and few and far between until right now you are right in the thick of this new way of discerning what's under the cloth.
Exactly. And we have to carve or we need a serving spoon or a carving knife to get into the juicy bits of whatever is on that Thanksgiving table. And with that, we need a high resolution sonar, not electromagnetic energy that satellites use, which cannot see through the water. It's sonar, the listening, the sound waves, and the ability to measure the amount of time that it takes for the sound pulses to reach the seafloor and return to the instrument. That's what we need, and that takes time, as we know. You deploy that kind of equipment from ships or now from robots.
Yeah.
And even from submersibles. Although using sonar from a submersible, that's a better way that's more of an obstacle avoidance measure. Submersibles are not the best as we know in terms of surveying broad swaths of the seafloor, but they can survey and give us beautiful little micro bathymetry maps of areas of the seafloor. Yeah.
I love seeing some of the ones that we get when we kind of take the combination of tools. So we have the satellite imagery, and then we come through the ship, and then we go AUV, like the little Tiburon AUVs we're working with right now. Back and forth and map and increasing kind of swarms, right? A couple of them working together, building those maps, and then we can go down and get finer and finer and finer detail.
It's a long way from when Jacques Descartes and Don Walsh were trying to figure out where to deploy the Trieste, the deepest place in the Challenger Deep. And the story, what was it? They lobbed hand grenades over the side.
Yeah, I think it was something like it. Dynamite.
Dynamite. Yeah, he had to get sound some way.
And now that the echo coming back.
Yeah, how long did it take, right?
Yeah.
That's the wonderful thing about the Challenger deep dive that we took a couple of years ago, and that's the focus of the book that you have, because the ship, the pressure drop, the deep submergence support vessel pressure drop, which is now called the research vessel Dagon, I believe, since that whole operation is under new ownership. That vessel has an EM-124 multi-beam bathymetric sonar that is wonderful at detailed mapping of everything on the ocean floor, including the deepest places that are within Challenger Deep. And it was the bathymetry from the ship that helped us to plan where Victor and I were going to go into the western pool of Challenger Deep. So it's as you were saying, Liz, these the nested resolutions that we have with technologies now, and one passes the baton to the other, and we can get the job done.
Yeah.
So, gender and other considerations aside, the fact that you and Kathy Sullivan were the deepest diving geologists ever to be able geologists and scientists down
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
personally witnessing what these technical devices enable us to visualize. You can see it with your own eyes. To go and look at these cracks in the ocean floor, the ups and downs, and I don't know, just to be where the pressure on top of you is 16,000 pounds per square inch, and think that you're safe and dry inside of this little capsule, observing personally, using that special computer that we carry around on our shoulders. And you, as a trained geologist, taking that experience, it has to infuse everything else you do, just having been really in the deepest place you can go.
Well, it was marvelous to actually be in a subduction zone, to actually be, the expression is in the trenches.
In the
So
trenches, yeah.
we were in right there at the meeting of the Pacific Plate with the Philippine Sea Plate, and we were looking for the remarkable marine life that exists under that fantastic pressure. I mean, that is a miracle. These creatures that we are still discovering that are able to exist their everyday lives. Oh, there's Riley. Their
Yeah.
everyday lives are in darkness. That's my dog behind me. And in darkness under tremendous pressures, freezing, near freezing temperatures. But for me, I love seeing the vast fields of angular blocks
Hmm.
that were probably the result of these two gigantic pieces of the ocean crust rubbing up against each other and crushing these rocks. And we also saw these areas as a habitat for hydroids and little amphipods and little anemones, because there were hydrothermal fluids, just a trace of them coming up through those areas. And as you go up higher on the trench slopes, of course, you do see the snailfish and the other species, the decapods and the larger amphipods that are able to exist. I think the deepest fish, the deepest fish that our lander picked up on video was at around 7,300 meters. But Alan Jameson and his team, which now operates the ship and the submersible that we were using, they're seeing incredible species. I think they just saw an octopus at 4,000 meters or something in the Tonga Trench, but also the deepest fish at 8,000, around 8,000 meters, I guess.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
And what do we know, Dawn, about what's out there beyond where we have so far explored? I think for us, it seems life there is really living under extreme circumstances. But I bet if you ask one of those snailfish what's extreme, they'd say, well, up there where all that oxygen is, where it's
Yeah.
dry.
That light,
Yeah, and all that light.
that burning light, you know,
And all that heat.
that heat,
It's
yeah.
too hot. It's
Yeah.
too hot in the euphotic zone. Yeah.
Most of life on Earth lives in the dark, and it's cold, and it lives under much higher pressure than what we experience. We have this bias about what's appropriate for life on Earth. What we should be saying is it's appropriate for us. But
Mhm.
the great majority, both in terms of volume and true diversity, it's out there below 1,000 meters.
Yes. And you know what really struck me about the dive that I was on with Victor Vescovo, and so many plaudits and thanks to him, because as a pilot and as an engineer,
Didn't say
but
pirate.
also as a but also as a fellow, he wouldn't consider himself an ocean scientist, but he was making wonderful observations along with me in terms of what we saw. But when I see images or film of both of you in the deep ocean research submersibles, for instance, those one-person submersibles, and you're in diving on coral reefs, and you see all these beautiful things around you. I get the feeling that that's we know that part of the ocean, and we belong there. We can visit there. We can swim there. We're familiar. But these deeper, the hadal, going into the hellscape of the ocean, we don't belong there. So
Yes, we
few
do.
of us have been
Yes,
there.
we do belong there, Dawn.
We-
Come on. We do belong there.
Well, from
do
that
belong
sense,
there.
yes, we do. But in terms of living, of habitat,
Yeah.
it's another world.
Hostile. Yeah.
It's another world. It's another habitat on this planet, but it's also beautiful. I mean, it is part of this. It's part of our world, and we are visiting that part. It's like visiting a foreign country, I guess, where you've never been there before, and you don't speak the language. You don't know the customs. You don't know the food. You don't know very much about how to live. It will take time for you to learn how to live in that new country. Now, Victor, having been to Challenger Deep 15 times, he is no longer a visitor. In fact, he calls that his happy place. but it is an amazing alien. It felt to me alien at first when we first landed, but then as we only had about 2.5 hours of battery power, and then we had to ascend, and I didn't want to ascend. I didn't want to leave.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
That's our biggest challenge when she's down in the submersible, is getting back to the deck. You have to have like a Sylvia override system, so that
Yeah.
if she decides that she's not going to pay attention to the dive supervisor, we can commandeer her remotely.
Or even it's that feeling when you're at sea and you don't want to go into port. I never want to go into port. I don't want it to end. And it feels as though I have been out at the ocean. I have been reabsorbed into my natural habitat. I am where I belong, and I don't belong on land anymore. I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
This might be a little extreme for some of your listeners, but that's the way that I have felt.
Well, I think it's just because the opportunities for us to visit these areas are so limited.
Yeah.
That, and every single time we get into the water, we see something new, or a different variation of behavior, or just new observations. And it's just that thirst for knowledge, but then we can come back and really communicate it to others. And I think it's like some of the most important work that you do with the GIS systems and the story maps and the things that are being just created out of those experiences that can really help to communicate it to others and share the view.
Encourage them to get out there and get down there.
And
yes, we're so thankful for that. And Mission Blue, your Mission Blue organization, is taking our technology, especially our story maps, to the right to the apex of how we would like that technology to be used to tell stories and to incorporate as many photos and videography and the narratives, so that people can see that these places can be part of their habitat also. I think it would be interesting to hear from your audience how many people actually live near the ocean and how many people don't. And I was surprised when I was in graduate school to learn about so many ocean scientists who came from Indiana and Illinois and Kansas.
Yeah.
And that did not matter, because from what they had seen in class or what they had seen on TV, they felt as though that was home for them, and they tried to find a way to get back home and to study that. And it doesn't have to be for us. I'm an island girl, grew up in Hawaii, so it seems natural for me. But and you are in the Bay Area. I mean, we are Pacific people, but it doesn't have to only, it's not only for us, it's for everyone.
I'm always impressed by the huge number of, I'll say, ocean enthusiasts and that are in Colorado, for instance.
Yeah, yeah.
Denver dive-
The Denver
desert divers.
desert divers, and it's kind of like, okay, guys. But you really think about looking again at geology and how many places on the land today used to be underwater
Yes.
or were really
Yeah,
formed.
that's also
Including Denver.
Yeah,
including, yeah.
yeah. But we kind of look at those landscapes and seascapes, and to your point, if you drained away the water from it, some of those environments are really pretty similar,
Mhm.
pretty interesting. We look at areas
Mhm.
that are carved by wind, and then we see areas that have been carved by deep ocean currents.
Or how about that mountain that was recently mapped for the first time off Chile?
Mhm.
Yes.
It was
And this is the thing. We have so many of these first time places, these seamounts that are being discovered, these plateaus. And oh boy, the Clarion Clipperton area where all of those new species were discovered. And we
5,000
got to
plus.
protect that from the mining operations, the deep sea mining.
Yeah.
Well, and again, a big shout out, a salute to Victor Vescovo, who
Mhm.
only is a true explorer and as an observer who reports honestly. He certainly qualifies, as you point out, as a scientist as well. But he's a businessman who understands the ins and outs of finance,
Mhm.
crunches the
Yeah.
numbers. And while some of us think it's just unconscionable that we would even think of taking bulldozer-like equipment and destroying these deep ocean systems before we even, period, let alone before we even know who they are or how they fit in. This is great ocean wilderness that is in the crosshairs of either maintaining it or destroying it. It's the once and never more. But Victor says, hey, it's not economically reasonable. And here's
It's not.
why.
Yeah.
And he crunches the numbers in a very methodical way,
Mhm.
armed with his particular skills, and says, you think you're going to get rich. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. Doesn't
And the
count.
fact, yes, and the fact that the battery technology is ever evolving. So nickel and manganese and lithium are not even going to be the materials needed
Correct.
for batteries that he points out. I love how he phrases it in terms of it's an expensive, technically challenged, massively damaging solution to a battery technology and material problem that existed 5 to 10 years ago.
Correct.
And
Yep.
the emperor has no clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's
His recent op-ed for The Economist, I think, lays out the case.
yeah, that's what I'm taking the wording from. And are you able to share that with your audience, a link to his
Yeah.
op-ed?
It'll
Yeah.
be in the chat. But it is just, it's shocking to see this sort of get rich quick off the deep sea mining things happening, and
It's been an illusion that
delusion.
somehow people can't get it out of their minds.
It's the treasure hunter
it
mentality.
is.
Yeah.
And if it's out there, somebody's going to get it. Let's get there first.
Let's get there first. And
Mhm.
it's a lot like, as you often say about sort of industrial fishing, it's kind of free goods for the taking and the profiteering. I'm talking about pirates. But that's really what it is. It's profiteering off nature.
And
At the
yeah.
expense of everyone.
pricing options for everyone who follows. I mean, it's pretty clear that there's a library of, of, of extraordinary insights about the nature of the planet, about life, about the things we really need to know if we're going to continue to prosper on Earth.
Mhm.
Just chop down the tree of knowledge.
Well, I love that analogy of a library too. And I was thinking one of my best friends, she may be listening, Antoinette Paget is a wonderful librarian, and I have other librarian friends. And we're talking, the circles that I'm in, we're talking more about libraries, maybe because of the banning of books that's going on
Oh,
in our society. And so how precious libraries are and books are, and you don't want to go in and we don't want book burnings, or we don't want these libraries to be damaged or to be held back. And they have so many other services, ways that they contribute. People go in to escape from excessive heat, and people are getting other media, books and Lego sets, and all kinds of things that you can get from libraries. And
tools.
I feel as though libraries are a metaphor for our oceans. There's so many services, so many beautiful, wonderful things we get from
Yet to
the
be
ocean. Yeah, and from libraries, and you don't want to you don't want to damage or have those services, ecosystem or societal services, taken away.
There's
Yeah.
knowledge. Speaking of books,
Yeah.
tell us about this one.
You have some excerpts you're going to share for us with us?
Oh, well, I should give credit to, so that book is the idea of my colleagues at Esri Press. So Esri, as a software company that makes ArcGIS, we also have a publication house that publishes books about ArcGIS, but even more so, research books and children's books, atlases, of course. And we are moving into the area of trade books. So the editors at Esri Press wanted to tell the story of the Challenger Deep Dive, and they wanted to tell my story, and they also wanted to expand this into why mapping the deep is so important. So they came to me with the idea, and it was this book is a collaboration. This is why it's written in the third person. It's a collaboration between Esri Press, their editorial staff, that was able to take my interviews. I talked with them. They're drawing upon so many things that I've written about the ocean and about how our Esri technology is used in the ocean. They have so the book includes all of the details about the dive, because people have been so interested in the dive.
Yeah.
And what it's like to go, not only to just be in a submersible, but to go as deep as we went. And so we wanted to tell that whole story as well. So the book starts off as a memoir, an adventure memoir, to tell the story of
6-year-old boys.
I mean, they go way back. And my little story leading up to the Challenger Deep Dive, we also tell the story, retell the story really of the 5 deeps and Victor's story. Now his story has been told so ably by oh, I have the books here.
We have it too.
Map,
It's
the
yep,
deepest map.
yep, that's it.
And also Susan Casey's beautiful The Underworld,
Yeah.
and other books.
Yeah.
We draw upon that, but tell the story of the 5 deeps from our perspective, especially since Victor and his Caladan Oceanic team was using our technology to do the bathymetric mapping from the ship as they were going through the 5 deeps. But then, so the first part of the book is this memoir, so to speak. But the second part of it is a call to action. in terms of, okay, let's expand beyond the dive and the technology of the dive, the ship and the submersible and the landers, the robots that accompanied us. And let's talk about other submersibles or other autonomous underwater vehicles, ships, satellites, planes, and all the various ways that we can map not only the seafloor, but map the water column, the surface, the fish in the ocean, and why this is so important. And then what you, as the reader, how you can participate, what you can do, how you can contribute. One of the ways that we have is to connect with Mission Blue and to nominate hope spots.
Yeah.
But one of the things I will say also about the book, and maybe I can share my screen for this.
Yeah.
So I will.
I do love the fact that you have been pioneering ways to not only map the surface, we know how to do that, or the bottom, we're getting there, but this dynamic layered system, it is really challenging. How do you map the water column, and how do you account for this ever shifting layer of life? Who is living there? How do they live? And in their motion and their migrations, both vertically and laterally, how do you wrap your mind around how do you depict that? How do you show?
Yes.
And the density layers too, because that's just like a whole nother level of complexity of even trying to get the sound to not bounce off the, the density layers that you encounter in the various.
But you're on it. I love it that you're pioneering a way to achieve what would seem to be impossible.
Well, we all stand on the shoulders of each other, the shoulders of giants. But what we do at Esri is to take the data that so many organizations are collecting, so many universities, so many nonprofits, the big NGOs like Conservation International and the Nature Conservancy, so many companies like your company, and we provide the analytical toolbox to make sense of that data and of course to create these maps and visualizations that then allow us to really understand what it is that we have, what it is that we're looking at. And that's part of what you will find in the companion website to the book. So there's information about the book, and very thankful also to Kathy Sullivan, who wrote the foreword.
Nice.
But there are many sections here, and I'm going through this because oftentimes you'll get a book and there might be a supplement,
right,
that is there, but there's not as much content as you might hope for, and we just went crazy here on the accompanying content. So we've got a lot of information that is mentioned in the book, but also is not, in terms of my little story and preparing for the dive itself, but mapping the ocean, learn how and why we map the ocean floor. And well, this is more biographical.
So
here we go, map the
ask,
ocean.
Should be obvious. This is available digitally.
Yes, this is free, and this was completed before the book was completed. And this is available at mappingthedeep.com. I also want to, so there's a lot of fun content here, but we have a section that is called bonus content, and this is directly related to the book. So books have notes, references, footnotes, and here every single reference or footnote or mention has a digital item associated with it.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to filter here, and you can filter by category, I'm doing this over on the left, mapping the deep chapters. And so chapters 1 through 8, there are items that link to every single reference. So if we reference a paper or another book, then that is accessible here through what we call here cards. So I'll start with chapter 1 here, and there are 28 references in that chapter. And each of those references has the actual information here. So now this is the Lego stop motion film. I won't dwell on that because that's a lot of fun. But in terms of extra videos, podcasts, picture galleries,
innovative.
Challenger Deep diorama.
This is the future of publishing,
Yeah.
Don.
Yes, and this part is very important here. This is the actual data that the bathymetry data that we collected from the ship at Challenger Deep. So you can
That's
get the
pretty cool.
100-meter bathymetric grid, you can get a 75-meter grid and a 150-meter grid of the entire Mariana Trench, not just the Challenger Deep.
Yeah.
Also, there's the story map about the dive. So there are nearly 200 additional items that are directly related to the book, as
So if
well
you-
as these other
mean-
sections.
This book is maybe it's not very thick,
No, it's just a small story.
but if you add the content, it
It
reaches the
speaks-
ceiling and
it
beyond.
speaks volumes.
So the website, yeah, the website is a lot of fun, and there are a lot of items in that website that are good for classrooms or science clubs
Yeah.
or
A
citizen
library
scientists.
all in itself.
So yeah.
And I think it really, part of the whole bigger picture is I think it's going to help to justify or strengthen the case for the protection for the high seas at large, because we see so much effort. It's been, so many decades of work trying to get that beyond national jurisdiction areas with some basic protections. And it's finally starting to happen, but
Finally, but the mindset has always been, what can we take? What can we sell? How can we use? How can we profit? It's missing is, how do we take care of the ocean that
takes care of us.
makes our existence possible?
Yes, and there are mentions. So for instance, in the chapter 8, diving deeper in terms of where do you go from here in terms of learning about mapping or learning about the ocean and the various issues. We do have the actual agreement on marine biodiversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction,
Awesome.
otherwise known as the High Seas Treaty.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
That people can investigate. And there are many other items that are associated with that, other articles, other organizations, all of these things you can explore.
But
And
I'll bet a
mission-
lot of people will go straight to the Legos.
some people, I think hopefully there's something for everyone here, and people can go straight to the Legos, but there are also the critical organizations that people need to join forces with. So we've got Mission Blue here. We've got your article, your original idea and plea, Sylvia, that was in Science magazine about deoxygenation of the ocean affecting everyone.
Yeah.
There's Map the Gaps, Ocean
Yeah.
Discovery League, Sea Legacy,
Mhm.
Christina Minnemeyer's organization, the International Seakeepers,
And
Depot's
wings.
strategy.
We're all wings fellows.
Wings, yes, Wings. All of these fantastic organizations that people really need to know about and to dive into
Yeah.
and to join. Some of the other books that are so important, again, The Deepest Map in the Underworld, but At Every Depth, which is Tessa Hill and Eric Simon's beautiful anthology of case studies and stories. There's so much that's really important that, when we produce a book, we want people to concentrate on the book, but we also want people to to concentrate on these other resources. So
Yeah.
like Sylvia, like your National Geographic books, I mean, the richness of the book itself is fantastic. But then you've got National Geographic and your Mission Blue and all of the other organizations and resources in your orbit, and you want people to feast on that.
But Dawn, let's get back to the Legos,
Okay.
because I know you're a Legoholic. Lego,
Well,
like,
one of my dreams, which my colleagues at Esri helped to bring to reality, was to do a Lego stop motion movie. I'd seen several of those. There is the Lego Women of NASA set that came out a few years ago, that includes Sally Ride and Mae Jemison, and I'm going blank
Yeah.
on all the details of that set. But some people have made, in fact, the woman who came up with that set, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on her name. This
Sorry,
is
but
but she also does these, she has done before stop motion animations.
hmm.
And I thought, oh gosh, it would be so neat to do that. And I asked her if she would do that for me, and she didn't have the time to do it. So I just put out a call to my colleagues at Esri, because there are a lot of Lego fans, a
we have
lot
the
of
same
really
situation.
talented Lego builders at Esri.
Yeah.
And
It's addictive.
my colleague Marika Vertsonis, who is in our Research and Development Center in Melbourne, Australia, she answered my call, and together we came up with a storyboard, and she animated it. She did it. So it's
Fantastic.
basically the first part of the dive where we reach the bottom, and then we see that infamous beer bottle.
Oh yeah, there's trash
About
everywhere.
it.
It's unbelievable.
30 seconds, and then a very short message about, this is ridiculous, this is crazy, but this is what we're doing to this planet. We can't even get to the very deepest places in the ocean where no human has been before, and we are preceded there by a beer bottle.
Yeah, we
We've
had the
got to
same
stop trashing the
experience.
planet.
We had the same experience at University of Hawaii with the Lulukai ROV, like 6,000 meter ROV system. We were doing trials at about 4,000 meters. First time we turned on the camera and turned and looked, and there was a Dasani water bottle.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
Yeah.
just like, what?
Return to sender.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
But and yes, we had to pick it up. We got rid of the litter. So
Yeah, it's that Lego Women of NASA, Margaret Hamilton, the great computer programmer, and she's also another figure there.
all the minfigs. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, what is at the outset of the Mapping the Deep site is the actual movie. So we figured
Yeah.
kids would enjoy that, or Lego fanatics, or hopefully anybody. But as people can see behind me, that there's a lot of Legos.
Yeah. Even a pirate ship. So
And the fun thing about it is that the limiting factor, Marika was able to create the limiting factor in Lego
Mhm.
For the movie. And Victor is also a Lego fan. He's
Good figure, huh?
he plays. I think he's played a lot with Legos, especially as a child. So after the movie was finished, we sent him the limiting factor Lego,
Awesome.
and he also has the minifig, or a minifig of himself, and a minifig of me. And it's pretty good likeness, because the minifig has he wears his hair tied back. It took us a while to find that that hair
Just
piece.
the right piece.
Yeah, that
That
little
first,
part.
and
Yeah.
it took a while to find my hair with the curly texture of my hair. Lego is doing much better now in terms of pieces. If people are going to build minifigs, we can build our own minifigs now with all kinds of hair textures and skin tones and
About time.
outfits and
Great.
yeah. So
Well,
so Lego has evolved.
we're going to jump over to some of the questions now.
Okay.
So Terry is asking us, can you discuss how mapping the ocean floor will help us stop deep sea mining?
Well, mapping the ocean floor, we can think about mapping the ocean floor in two modes. There is the undulations on the ocean floor, finding out the differences in depth, the topography, where there are grooves on the ocean floor, where there are ridges, where there are flat areas, that basic seascape. But oftentimes when we're mapping the ocean floor, we're also mapping it visually. And we are collecting video and pictures. So we have not only what the habitat is, but who are the creatures that are making use of that habitat.
Yeah.
And it's revealing that that makes the case for why this is not an area that we know enough about and should not proceed with tearing it up with mining operations. Now, many of these, I guess the metal company, for instance, they may have the technology to do fine scale, high resolution mapping as they should, because the hope with the International Seabed Authority is that you're not going to lease these areas without environmental assessments first. That's the whole thing.
Correct.
We're supposed to be doing environmental impact assessments before doing any of these operations. And I don't think many of us in the scientific community trust that will be the case, just as we have environmental impact assessments on land before we build a new development or put in any type of infrastructure. So I would say in a nutshell that seafloor mapping is a critical part of that environmental impact assessment that is needed.
And
The truth is, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So Lockheed did some initial sampling using remotely deployed cameras back in the early 1980s because of their interest at the time. The enthusiasm of same thing that has generated this myth of riches. They were excited about being the first to go down there, and of course it was also a factor in derailing the law of the sea. And the United States has still not ratified the law of the sea.
Yeah,
And
it's
started with concern over giving away technology or sharing technology for countries who did not have the technology in order to be able to access the alleged riches in the bottom of the sea. But we don't know what we don't know. And that's the thing. We need to hedge our bets, if you will, to, in the absence of knowing, not just assume the way Lockheed did. They found sea cucumbers and could not see what is now seeable and knowable. And they said, well, who cares about sea cucumbers anyway? It turns out a lot of interest in sea cucumbers, aside from their intrinsic right to live, if you will, for medicinal purposes. But that's just trivial compared to the bigger picture.
yeah, just the work they do in processing sediments and
What right do we have to destroy that we can't put back together again?
well, and I think the mapping also really helps us to gauge, the so-called, what is the recovery timeline? Is going back to the 1960s when you had those first test trawls of deep sea nodules, and those areas have never recovered.
No.
Yeah.
Why would you expect things that take millions of years to form to pop back in a few decades?
But it's not going to be like in any of our lifetimes or the lifetimes of generations for these areas.
Yeah.
It's geologic time.
Geologic time. So it's It's always good to ask geologists about time, right?
Yes.
10,000 years ago. No, it wasn't. It's
You think
50,000.
about that's 10,000 years is nothing. Yeah.
Plus minus a few thousand.
Few thousand,
Or a
exactly.
million.
Right. Paul Young, Paul is asking, are you involved with the University of New Hampshire and the JEBCO and Seabed 2030 efforts?
Yes, and thank you, Paul. Esri is a member of Seabed 2030. So that is one of, we actually at Esri, we support 5 programs of the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And Seabed 2030 is one of the larger programs of what we call the UN Ocean Decade. And there are dozens of organizations that are members of Seabed 2030. Most of the members are actual data collectors, organizations that are gathering bathymetry at sea and submitting it to GEBCO, the General Bathymetric Chart of the Oceans. It is GEBCO, basically Seabed 2030 is the Nippon Foundation GEBCO Seabed 2030 project. And so organizations such as Victor's Caladan Oceanic, Schmidt Ocean Institute, Scripps Institution of Oceanography, Lamont at Columbia University, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, Ifremer in France, all of these organizations that are part of Seabed 2030, who are data collectors, they are building out the Seabed 2030 grid. And we are 26.1% of the way there in terms of getting all of the seafloor mapped to a high resolution, the resolution that we need. There are other members of Seabed 2030, such as Esri, which is a data provider, a visualization company, a science methodology company. We are involved from that standpoint. And we also have our own Esri Ocean base map that mirrors the GEBCO grid. So for our GIS community, we deliver the GEBCO grid, the Seabed 2030 progress, so to speak, to the millions in our GIS community.
Yeah.
So yes.
Excellent. And kind of related to that, Mary is asking, to get that high scale resolution that can guide conservation and management, what tools or combination of tools are really most needed right now?
Is this Mary Gleason?
It sure is.
Happy International Talk Like a Pirate Day, Mary, but more importantly, happy continued retirement to you. We miss you. And Mary is one of the most amazing marine ecologists and mappers working for the Nature Conservancy for so many years, and a caretaker of so many coasts, including the California coasts. And I think Mary's question is great because it harkens to what we were talking about earlier in terms of we need nested technologies, tools that can map at a broader resolution all the way down to the finest resolution for these areas, especially as we're mapping in marine sanctuaries. One of the things that I think we miss in marine sanctuaries is total mapping. All the marine sanctuary maps that I see are just of the surface, and it's just showing the boundaries. And the sea surface is absolutely important. Of course, it's the part of the ocean that we know, and we tend to want to regulate activities, thinking that we are capturing fishing or recreation or science by looking at the surface, but it has to be as three-dimensional, as you've said, Sylvia, all the way down to the benthic habitats that are on the seafloor. So taking stock and monitoring in marine protected areas requires this nesting of tools at different resolutions, mapping tools, and then analytical tools, of course, like GIS.
That's where we're hoping with the Hope Spot Network to weigh in and to be part of the solution.
And it really points also to just the need to really incentivize the sharing of data.
Yeah.
And, because it's so frustrating when we see some programs go out or some expeditions go out, and then it's like, my data, nobody gets it. 3 years, 5 years, whatever,
Mhm.
ever. But if there's really a kind of a financial or funding incentive to share the data, I think that would go a long way to getting us where we need to be faster.
Yes, I think our culture is changing to be more open, this whole open science movement.
Yes.
I think of open science almost like a political movement. It's almost like the sunrise movement with the young people in climate.
Yeah.
The idea now that we are going to be open not only with our data, but with our methods and workflows.
Yep. It was a big,
It's even a better business model. Like for us at Esri, we embrace it because we can do better business and we can serve our users better.
100%. Absolutely. Okay, Stephanie, she says she's in landlocked Indiana, but she wants to know, are you selling any signed books?
Well, Stephanie, if you are able to get the book online and send it to me, I'll sign it for you. We right now I don't have. I have a couple of events where the books are being sold. So, for instance, I think the next event will be at a community center in Riverside near where I live here in Redlands, California, and then in December I'll be speaking at the Black and Marine Science Week, and we'll be selling books and I'll be signing them there. But we don't really have anything structured here, and this is not like a New York Times bestseller kind of thing. So it's very humble and very casual. So if you want to send the book to me, I'll sign it for you. And by the
Awesome.
way, if you're in Indiana, awesome. And I am a diehard Indiana Fever fan. Caitlin Clark, and I'm watching WNBA games because of the Indiana Fever. So, oh my gosh, I hope you're an Indiana Fever fan too. That is a fantastic team.
That's awesome.
I love them.
Victoria is asking, can GIS technology and mapping for the deep be a new push for ocean conservation among youth like high schoolers?
Yes, and this is Victoria Huber, who
Yeah.
Victoria in terms of Lego lore,
Right?
Victoria has broken the record in terms of the coolest, most amazing Lego creation ever, because she has sent to me a portrait. It's actually a scene from an animated film that I was in about my first dive in Alvin. And she recreated that scene of me looking out the porthole of Alvin. And she recreated it in Lego dots or Lego small tiny bricks. It's just the most remarkable thing. It's hanging on my wall in my Lego building room. In terms of, I don't have a dining room anymore. I have a Lego building room.
That's good. Those are good goals. Yeah.
Food for the soul.
Now, in terms of ocean conservation among youth, like high schoolers, Victoria is involved in so many organizations, local organizations that are pushing that, and I think we just have to be resilient, and we have to keep moving forward with these organizations and ocean literacy
Yeah.
for children. Children love ocean literacy.
Yes.
Teenagers need to love it more. But if young people are thinking about climate and thinking that they won't have a quality of life with climate change, the ocean is totally a part of that conversation. The ocean has to be part of that conversation.
There's just yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many new economic opportunities in sort of ocean coastal resilience. It really comes right back into the GIS mapping of shorelines. And, Paul, kind of the last question we had here is, would LiDAR be useful for shoreline mapping in less turbid environments?
Yes, that would be part of the toolkit, the tools that would be available.
Yeah.
And also, again, for Victoria, there's an organization called Youth Mappers, and they are pushing ocean conservation, even though they are based in Arizona, but they're pushing all kinds of conservation all around the world.
But it's just so critical. I think, so many people are feeling like it's kind of hopeless, or there's no jobs in science, or these sorts of things. But I think the truth of the matter is that there's a huge economic opportunities in just repairing some of the damage that's been done, and really helping to recover water, to recover all the natural services, starting on the coast and going out into the deep sea.
Yes. Yeah. Jobs.
Jobs, and we need people
Careers.
and careers at sea. I mean, you started off, there with the Jody's Resolution years ago, and
Mhm.
going to sea, and it's so important for people to know that they can go into the field, and there's some amazing opportunities there,
Yeah.
especially
Somebody
starting in
says
high
you
school.
can't do that. Your
Double
answer is,
down,
why not?
Yeah.
not go deep.
Go deep, go deep or go home. Oh, it is home.
It is home.
Yeah, it is home. And we're so enamored of space, and some people think of space as home and they want to go to Mars and the moon, and that's great. In fact, okay, I'm sorry, Maya Weinstock. Maya Weinstock is the wonderful person who came up with the Lego Women of NASA idea and kit. And she's the one who made the stop motion animation film. She's a science writer at MIT, among many other things. But yes, we're talking about, it's becoming a bit trite now. There is no planet B, but it's true. There is no other real home for us.
Right.
And if we see the totality of our home in terms of as the land extends into the ocean, and if you can see that topography underwater, especially, Sylvia, I first became aware of this with your Sustainable Seas expeditions, and the fact that our parks, our national parks, there's so much of it underwater that's just stunning. And we must know about this. This is part of the United States. We must be able to see and visualize this, which is what
And
we
take
do
care of
with
it.
GIS.
And really take care of it.
Yeah.
With national parks and wildlife areas generally, you protect the wildlife in so many areas of the ocean that are said to be protected, including marine sanctuaries. There's a lot of fishing that goes on.
Even trawling.
Yeah, I mean, it's wildlife.
Mhm.
We need to rethink ocean life as wildlife and at least give some breaks.
Absolutely.
97% of the ocean is open for exploitation. Only about 3% is truly safeguarded for the creatures who live there. So we have we have a way to go. And what you're doing, enabling people to see what's there and why they should care, is a giant step in the right direction.
And we are at the top of the hour. Actually, we've crept past ever so slightly.
Oh no.
We've got to run off for now. But before we close, we want to say thank you, Dawn. Thank you to our guests and our producer, the Ocean Elders, and everyone in the diving community that keeps coming back and diving in with us. We're so grateful to you all. And water connects us all.
It sure does. And
Well,
thank you so much. And the questions and to your audience as well. If there are other questions, people can contact me at dwright@esri.com, ESRI.com.
and they will.
And I'll happily answer the questions that we weren't able to get to.
All right. And until next month, remember, take care of the ocean.
As if your life depends on it, because
It does.
It does. Yeah.
Yay, verily. Bye for now, everyone.
Thank you so much. Where's my hat? Oh,
Where's your hat?
oh, here we go. Okay, have a great rest of your Talk Like a Pirate day, mateys.
Arg, we will. Aye.
Yes. Bye-bye.